Towards the end of Parashas Masei, Kadosh Baruch Hu tells Moshe Rabbeinu to instruct Bnei Yisrael about the Arei Miklat. That when they come to Eretz Yisrael, one of the mitzvos that is uniquely applicable in Eretz Yisrael and Eivai Yarden is the mitzvah to designate Arei Miklat in case a person accidentally, unintentionally commits a murder, so he must go to Galus. And then in that context, the Torah tells us other details about the punishment for murder, whether it's done b'mezid or b'shogeg. Almost at the end of that parasha, at the end of Perek Lamed Hey, the Torah tells us that we're not allowed to take money in exchange for to pardon a murderer. Whether a murderer is chayav misa, or whether he's chayav galus, whether it's done b'mezid intentionally or b'shogeg unintentionally, either way, there's an isser to take kofar, to take a pardon, and that money would somehow pardon the murderer from his judgment. That isser applies all across the world. B'chol moshvosechem, says the Ramban. The next pasuk though says, in Perek Lamed Hey, pasuk Lamed Gimel, V'lo sachanifu es haaretz asher atem ba, ki adam hu yachanif es haaretz, v'la'aretz lo yichupar l'adam asher shupach ba, ki im b'dam shofcho. Beyond the universal isser to take money as a pardon for a murderer, to somehow escape his fate, there's a particular isser in Eretz Yisrael, V'lo sachanifu es haaretz, that in Eretz Yisrael, it's somehow worse, or there's an additional level of the Isser to take money in exchange for pardoning a murderer. Why is it that in Eretz Yisrael specifically there's an additional level? How is murder is not a mitzvah tu ba'aretz? It's an aveira obviously all across the world. So taking a pardon taking money to pardon a murderer is also not a mitzvah tu ba'aretz. It would seem like something which, and it does apply across the world. So question number one is, why is it particular to Eretz Yisrael? Question number two is, what does this word mean? V'lo sachanifu. It's a funny word. Chanifa or chanufa is some sort of bad midah, at least a flattering maybe being overly flattering of somebody who doesn't deserve it. We should be machanif to rishoyim. What does it mean lachanif es haaretz? So Ramban explains. First he quotes Rashi. Rashi says that here chanifa. Rashi says in a general sense it means lo tarshi'u, or Rashi quotes the Targum Onkelos, lo techayvun. Don't somehow make something bad happen in the land, right? Don't make resha, don't increase the resha in the land, the wickedness in the land. If somebody commits a murder and he's supposed to be punished, so when we don't punish him, that's a bad mark on Eretz Yisrael. So Ramban disagrees. Ramban says no, chanifa here means what it means in general. Chanifa in general means to display something which is not authentic. Right? You harbor certain feelings about a person, but what you display doesn't match what you actually feel. Right? You think a certain person is despicable, but you display a certain positive emotions toward that person. That would be chanufa. So Ramban says that's what it means here. How so? What's chanufa in relation to a land? The Ramban explains that Kadosh Baruch Hu created this world that there is produce, and when you put a seed in the ground, that seed contains within it the possibility of produce growing. And the natural system is, as it were, that you plant in the ground, and when Kadosh Baruch Hu gives a bracha of rain and sunshine and photosynthesis does its effect, so what grows is a mirror image, as it were, of the seed that went into the ground. The chanufa of the land, if we would take kofar, when we allow murder to go unchecked, when we don't respond as powerfully as we must to the terrible crime of murder, so the ground, we are being machanif the aretz. We're causing the ground to not display what it has inside of it. Meaning, people will plant, and what comes out of the ground will not reflect what they planted. They'll plant a lot, like Rabban quotes the pasuk from Tochacha. You won't harvest from the ground as much as you planted in it. The harvest will not equal the planting. This is the special onesh, and the Ramban in Sefer Mitzvos says that this is an extra level isser. It's not only an extra onesh in Eretz Yisrael, it's an extra isser to take a pardon, to allow murder to go without the proper response is a particular isser in Eretz Yisrael, and And as well, it has an extra level of punishment for us in Eretz Yisrael. What we see from this Ramban is generally so the Ramban has in other places that the world, Kadosh Baruch Hu created the world with a natural system, and that natural system is in some way, as much as there are chukei hateva, physics is physics and biology is biology, Kadosh Baruch Hu also tailored the world to the actions of human beings. That what we do has a direct influence on the world. Most particularly in Eretz Yisrael. Eretz Yisrael is the place where more than anywhere else in the world, Kadosh Baruch Hu designed it that our actions have a hashpah. The way we conduct ourselves has a direct influence on the natural growth of Eretz Yisrael. As the Ramban says, and as is documented by many, including Mark Twain, that when Klal Yisrael went into Galus, the land itself stopped producing. The land itself was ki'ilu in Galus. We also see from here that there are two dinim in Galus, as it were. There are two types of Galus. There are two types of churban that we are currently noting, that we are currently remembering and living in these 3 weeks. Number one is the Galus of Klal Yisrael from its land. The Galus of Adam min ha'adama. That the Adam was sent away, as it were, as we find by Adam HaRishon and by Cain, and by Klal Yisrael, that we're sent away from the land. We are physically removed from that land. We are depossessed of the land. There's another aspect of Churban and of Galus that applies even when we're on the land. That's the Chanifa here. That you could be living on the land, but the relationship to the land is severed in a certain way. That instead of the natural relationship of we plant and then we harvest what we plant, we could still be living here, but the land doesn't respond to us as it once did. You could have a parent-child relationship that sours so much that the child is sent away from the home. The child is sent out of the house. He's no longer invited. Before you get to that terrible stage, there could be a more subtle stage where the child is still at home. The child is still home, but the response from the parent is not the same. The child walks on the door and says, "Hello, how are you? It's so good to see you," and the parents don't want to speak to him. The child comes to the dinner table and the parents only they prepared two meals but not 3. There's a level of galus where we're here physically in the land, but Akash Baruch Hu doesn't let the land respond to us. He doesn't let us feel the bracha of planting in the ground and having it come out. And so the Torah in Masei is telling us that you could get to the stage where you're in Eretz Yisrael, but if your conduct in that land is not up to the standards I've set, if you take kofir, if you don't respond forcefully enough to the terrible crime of ritzicha, then you might still be in the land. You might still live there physically. But the land is going to stop responding to you. You're going to machanif es ha'aretz. You're going to cause the land to be in a state of chanufa, to be in a state where it doesn't display what you planted in it. You will put in lots of effort but not see the rewards. And all that is a simin l'davar, that your relationship with the Shekhinah has been lost. So we are really in these 3 weeks we are mourning 2 different parts of Galus. We're mourning, number 1, the physical removal of Klal Yisrael from its land, and number 2, the change in the relationship that Klal Yisrael had with the land and ultimately, and honestly, with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. That even when we're physically here, what we see from the land is not the direct results of a close relationship. Mit Hashem, we're mekaveh for the day where not only will Klal Yisrael fully come back to its land, but moreover, our relationship with that land will be one of closeness, of one where we see directly how our investment in the land leads to our reaping its rewards, and more essentially, how the Shekhinah that dwells in this land responds, and how we enjoy the close relationship with the Kadosh Baruch Hu in this land. Have a good Shabbos.